Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss a video from Radio 1.
As we lead up to the Euros, he won the League Cup with Liverpool, FA Cup winner with Portsmouth, and was England's first choice goalkeeper for so many, many years. Also, almost 100 appearances each for Man City and West Ham. David James is here, and if you remember, we had a detailed conversation with him in August of last year, which really went viral. How have you been since we last spoke? Have you got both your jabs, your vaccinations done, David?
Yeah, the match day, Rishi. Yes, I want to say I've been well. I have. I had my second vaccine this weekend, gone Sunday. Strangely, I was supposed to wait another, I think, 4 or 5 weeks, and I got a text message saying I've suddenly become vulnerable, which I thought was, yeah. But I had the jab done, and we're sort of slowly coming out of lockdown situations. I know the situation in India is still nowhere near good enough, but I do hope that everyone is taking care. Anyone listening, obviously, is well and healthy. So I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you.
Thanks very much. England, the Three Lions. I'm going to actually talk about England and talk about Group D largely, so that because we've got 20 minutes. Gareth Southgate, coach since 2016, David. His 4 major tournaments as a player include that Euro 1996 venture, the semis in which he missed a penalty against Germany. And of course, we all know that as a manager, he changed the mood around 2018 when England got to the World Cup semi. So your reading of Gareth?
Well, he was a former teammate of mine. And not that at the time I would have thought that he was manager credential, but at the same time, I think as a player, I mean, how old was I? 30 years old. I wasn't really looking at managers so much. So, but sort of retrospectively, he had all the credentials to be a manager. He proved himself as a club manager, obviously with Middlesbrough. But he's such a deep thinker, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I think international football, it works because you've got a lot of time to think and put things into action with players on a short period of time rather than trying to implement things over long periods of time as a club manager. And it might sound a little bit sort of contradictory in a sense, but Gareth, I call him Gates. And I was at the game on Wednesday against Austria with some FA people, and I mentioned Gates, and they said, "Do you call him Gates still?" Because everyone else calls him Gareth. Which kind of makes sense because when you speak to Gareth in the way, he's very articulate, but he sort of commands a first name, not a nickname. And I sort of laughed at myself. But yeah, just a wonderful guy, really, really wonderful guy. I mean, I do keep in touch with him. I don't bother him with the sort of questions that I know fans and listeners want answered, because I know, having been in a position like that if anyone's saying anything, I don't want him to think it's me when it's not, because if someone says something in confidence, then it's in confidence. But yeah, wonderful guy, and he's done, as you say there, he's changed the mood, he's changed the setup with England, and his experiences only as a player, but as England 21 manager, he'd already experimented. This is the beauty of it. He'd experimented with the under-21s. The under-21s that he had weren't successful. When the England job first came up, and for anyone who doesn't know this, he didn't put himself forward because he didn't think it was the right time. Sam Allardyce came in. He was there very, very short period of time, I think 1 game. And then Gareth thought, well, I'll have to take the opportunity now. And I think England have benefited from that.
Let's look at some key players. Harry Kane, overall top scorer in the quali, is 12 goals. And then 33 goals, 17 assists for the Spurs in all competitions, 2021. He's looking pretty talismanic, if I could use that word, isn't he, David?
Yeah, wonderful season for Harry Kane. Well, I say wonderful season. As an individual, it was a wonderful season. For Tottenham Hotspurs qualifying for the Europa Conference. Yes, it's a European competition, but obviously they were looking at Champions League, losing in the cup final. There was a lot of potential, I would say, disruption, disappointment with Tottenham. I'm not even going to mention the idea of creating any new leagues or anything else that might have upset them this season. But as an individual, he carried on. And from everything I understand about Harry Kane, this is a dedicated professional. And how can I say, almost Sachin Tendulkar-like, in the sense that he just practices and practices to be the best. And having followed him for many years, doing punditry, commentary, whatever, I mean, you can just see the improvement. And as you say, this is a guy who, England's talisman, providing the rest of England team get around him and assist him rather than him being the assister, so I say, or the assistant, then, there's no reason why Harry Kane can't, again, win a golden boot, maybe even win a trophy with England.
That's a lovely analogy there for all Indian fans, the analogy or the comparison with how Tendulkar went about his business. Sancho, everybody's saying Sancho's the one to watch out for. You're reading of him.
Yeah, this is so. One of my friends is he was the coach for Dortmund, Edin, and he talks about the English guys. Bellingham's another one. I mean, Sancho, yes, of course, because he had a sort of wonderful time out in India in the under-17 World Cup. Now, Jude Bellingham's 17 years old. I was with the players yesterday doing some activation work. We didn't social distance. We had an extra meter. We weren't allowed within 3 meters. So it was just in case anyone's worrying. Yeah, everything in the England camp has to be done the right way. But Jude Bellingham, we're talking about Euro '96. This is a guy who was born in 2003. Just seeing the confidence of these young players. Sancho, he was in and around. I had a quick chat with him. Another friend of mine, I'm not name dropping here at all, but another friend of mine coached him as a kid. And I mentioned it, and he was like, yeah, I remember him at Watford. And it was kind of like, yeah, it's such a... What I got from yesterday, and it's still very raw, was this feeling that the players in the camp are in a really good space. And Sancho was there. He was in a good mood. Say with Jude Bellingham, they won the cup in Germany a few weeks ago, so they've tasted success. They've played Champions League football. They've tasted what it's like to play in these pressurized games, and yeah, Phil Foden, Mason Mount, some lovely players.
You've actually preempted my next question, which is about Jude Bellingham. He's not even 18, but we've all seen what the Dortmund midfielder can do. I thought that UEFA Champions League quarterfinal in which he scored that fine goal against Man City was just fearless. He's absolutely fearless. He also, since you mentioned the game against Austria, he must have really impressed you on Wednesday evening. A bit about Bellingham. Yeah,
and it's an interesting situation with Bellingham, as I say, because he's 17 years old. I mean, the fact that he wasn't there at the Euros, I mean, half the team weren't there at the Euros, so it's kind of he's not unique in that sense. Sorry, Euro '96 this is. But one of the things that people try to put you off with regards to youngsters is they haven't got experience. And I bring up Sachin Tendulkar again. If you're good enough for a finals, and we're talking 5 weeks. You only need to be good for 5 weeks. Whatever happens in the rest of your career, if 5 weeks is all that you can perform for at your best, and you end up winning a trophy, i.e. the Euros, then that'll do, because you could spend the rest of your career trying to chase something which never happens. And someone like Jude Bellingham at 17 years old, like Sachin Tendulkar, I think it was 19, wasn't he, when he got his cricket opportunity, just seize the moment. This is a confident guy. As I said, his coach talks so highly of him. When you think that he's come from England to Germany during a pandemic with just his mum, so the two of them have gone over to Germany to play at Dortmund, as you said, performing wonderfully for Dortmund. And just keep it going for another 5 weeks, Jude. And everyone in England will be very, very happy.
Jordan Henderson. Why is he still in the squad despite not featuring in the Premier League for Liverpool since February with that groin injury? I mean, since you know Gareth, I'm not asking you to read his mind, but just your thoughts.
Well, I've been thinking about this over the last few days, simply because, again, there's a level of discourse which is that you have to be, match fit, and this description of match fitness, I think it's a bit of a misnomer in one sense. I mean, yes, statistically, you can run this far, you can run this fast, and whatever. But you can get fit off the field and then play a game. And the idea of coming up to match speed is more sort of relevant. Someone like Jordan Henderson, when he's fit enough to play, is England's best midfielder. It may be in that holding role going forward, whatever it is. I mean, the sort of the strict positions 4-4-2, as you know, have sort of morphed so much in football. So to say that he's a holding midfielder or an attacking midfielder is very loose. But when you've got someone with that much experience, and I think also equally importantly, is such a big character off the field, the likes of Jude Bellingham need to be able to look at Jordan Henderson and see how he conducts himself, listen to his words of advice, whatever it could be. And it might just be that Jordan Henderson, who's trying to get fit, doesn't appear in the Euros for one reason or another. But being in that England squad, he might be giving that little bit of advice to Jude Bellingham, to Jadon Sancho, to anyone, Jordan Pickford even. As an England captain, he's got the stature of an England captain, he could be so vital, because the 11 players playing any game, there's still another, 12 players off the field, or no, it's 15 players now, isn't it? Of course, 15 players who have a big part in whether those 11 on the field are going to perform at their highest level. So I think Jordan, it's a chance whether his fitness is going to actually get him onto the field, but an unfit Jordan Henderson could still have a major or a positive influence on the England squad.
David, another raging debate is about Harry Maguire. Sol Campbell has gone on record saying Harry Maguire should marshal the back line. Rio Ferdinand says that he won't take players who are 50% fit. I'd like you to comment on that.
I go back to the point before that, certain players not fit actually have a bigger impact off the field than 100% fit. 100%. That doesn't exist either. But a fit player. I think with Harry Maguire, you look at that Manchester United side this season when he wasn't playing. And I've sat there with a lot of people watching games, and albeit through virtually whatever, but listen to people talking about Harry Maguire in a way which I didn't see myself. I thought he was always, I was very positive about him. And it wasn't until he comes out the side that you see that Manchester United need Harry Maguire. And I think his performance, commanding the defence is one thing. I watched Jordan Pickford in the game against Austria. He was very, very vocal, and which I liked. It's not something that you often see with goalkeepers nowadays. They're quite happy just sort of sitting in there as part of this sort of formation strategy, whatever. Jordan was very vocal. So Harry Maguire being in there would be good, but there's a lot of players who are very vocal. So I don't think the responsibility should be on one player to command the defence, and especially when you've got a goalkeeper as vocal as Jordan Pickford, to marshal out defence as well from behind. And I prefer the goalie position than the centre-half position, being the one who's orchestrating, because quite literally you can see everything that's going on rather than just sort of facing one side of the pitch.
True. Sven-Goran Eriksson was shocked that Jesse Lingard isn't in the squad with his pace and cleverness. What do you feel?
Yeah. Well, I think with the squad, this is one of the beauties that Gareth Southgate or any England fan at the moment would have, is the fact that even when Gareth picked 33 players, so many people were saying, hang on, why isn't he in there? Why isn't he in there? Rather than we need to bring someone in or take some. It was again a wonderful situation for English football that even a 33-man squad wasn't big enough for the quality of players we've had, and for someone like Jesse Lingard, Danny Ings is another one who had some injury problems, but he sort of got himself fit at the end of the season. They're players that people were saying should have been in. But it was very difficult to omit someone else. I mean, who are you going to take out of that front line for Jesse Lingard? Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You can take Harry Kane out, depending on what your front line looks like. Jadon Sancho. Do you take Jadon Sancho out because you want to put Jesse Lingard in there? And it's kind of like, no, I think Gareth's in a beautiful position where he was going to upset a few people by leaving him out of the squad. And Jesse was another one. I mean, I think he's had a wonderful time with West Ham. He's got a wonderful relationship with Declan Rice. And you would think those relationships would have been nice to keep together for the squad. But unfortunately for Jesse, he's up against some very good competition this season. So he'll just have to wait till next time. Not too long either, is it? It's a year and a half. So
Trent Alexander-Arnold, he picks up a thigh injury and he's out. Who do you think Gareth Southgate is going to name instead of him? Why, or rather, let me rephrase that. Who do you think? Who does David think should be named as a replacement to him, to Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Jesse Lingard. Well, is he definitely out?
Well, yeah, that's what the latest news is, that he is out. The thigh injury is
Okay. I don't know this.
I think they will wait till Sunday. They've got to wait till Sunday. So.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I was at the training camp yesterday of the team hotel, and I don't ask questions like that.
Fair enough.
So simply, and again, this is to any listeners there, I have this sort of thing. If I ask questions to people who don't want everyone to know the answers, and somehow that answer gets out there, then they'll look at me. And the thing is, I don't tell anyone, so I just don't ask the question. I didn't think. Who does he replace? Who does he replace him with? I'm trying to think who's dropped out now. Yeah, it would be White, wouldn't it, or Godfrey? I think England have got a lot of cover in that position. I think that's fair to say. And again, sort of on the back of the Jesse Lingard conversation, it's whether Gareth looks at it and said, well, actually now can I afford to put someone in someone like Saka, who can play defensive attacking. It's kind of like you can change your defensive formations, because defenders, Reece James, for example, if you're going to get too tactical here, if you're going to play back four, then Reece James can sit in as a right back. If you're going to play three, then he's an attacking winger. So I think the defensive side of things, England can adjust. It's whether or not someone up front, the likes of Jesse Lingard, we need a bit more firepower, because the Austria result was great. We won 1-0. But the Austrian goalie wasn't overly tested. And then you think, okay, now I think to win the tournament, we need to be at our best defensively. Hence the reason there was extra cover in defence. But at the same time, looking at the Austria game, we still need to be more creative. So I don't think it'll be a like for like in my head, but Gareth's England manager, not me.
But Saka has impressed, isn't it? I mean, against Austria, but I think he needs to go one step up against Romania on Sunday in the next friendly, and you think that'll be kind of seal it for Saka? Yeah,
these games are so frustrating. They're really frustrating, because you're caught in how can I say? I mean, Trent Alexander's prime example. You have to play the games, because it's the only time that Gareth's really got to see whether any tactical situation works to keep players ticking over from the end of the season. But there's always a risk that you can get injured. So the Romania game, for someone like Saka, for any player, you'd like to think just go out there 100%. And again, this is sort of common conversation around football, especially when it comes to international plays, like 100% every time you put that England shirt on. And in your head, you do this. There is the reality, though, that, with 90 minutes to go, your tournament could be over. And it's whether or not you try and sort of protect yourself a little bit. But someone like Saka, young player, I wouldn't want to say that he's got the rest of his career to worry about it, so go for it 100%, because at the end, you never know what's going to happen after that anyway. But I think if he has a good game, or a solid game, if he's given the opportunity, likes of Calvin Phillips in midfield, we've got a lot of players who need some time. So it's whether Gareth goes strong, ready for the first game, or whether he just sort of bides his time, gives some players some extra minutes. But for Saka, he was, again, very good. Jude Bellingham was very good against Austria. I'm just England. I even got a scarf. I wasn't allowed to wear it because I was in the FA box. But
But honestly, England have so much quality at the moment, David. They could make a good squad of players that won't play at the Euros for England. I mean, that's the way it is, isn't it? Yeah.
This, as I say, as an England fan, I mean, having covered the games for Sony for the World Cup and the Euros in the past, it's kind of like I always think England are going to win. That's the England fan in me. But at the same time, I've always looked at the squad and sort of thought, okay, right, we've got the right number, but you're trying to work out where the strengths and the real strengths and weaknesses are. And I think the weaknesses were kind of easier to find. Whereas this squad, you look through it, 7 players in the Champions League final. You got three players, including the likes of Mason Greenwood, who didn't make the squad, involved in the Europa League final. You got Jude Bellingham and Sancho winning trophies in Germany. I mean, it's just, so good.
For an England fan, it's certainly is.
For an England fan, yeah.
My last question is, they lost to the Czech Republic in the qualifiers, but do you see them struggle again? Are you just saying England are going to top this group? I mean, there's still a Croatia. I know that Mandzukic, Rakitic, Subasic have retired, but there's still Modric, Perisic, Kovacic, the Czech Republic. My God, that West Ham duo, Souček, Kufal, Scotland. I mean, they've got such an amazing trio at the back. McTominay, Tierney, Andy Robertson. Just play soothsayer here for Group D.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get me off my England fan side here, but I think, again, I think through experience, having been in that position where you're sort of in the squad, and it's not about being confident or not. You just turn around and go, okay, I know the opposition, I know what they're capable of. Like you're saying there's some names that these players are familiar with on a day-to-day basis. And then you hear England have easy qualification and you think, hang on a minute, do you know what you're playing against, or do you actually know these guys? So yeah, they're a threat. Every team is a threat. Absolutely. McTominay, who again has had a fantastic season. Andy Robertson, who, as you say, everyone knows about. There's a young guy, Nisbet, who's been brought into the forward line. He scored the other day, yesterday against the Netherlands, or the day before, was it? The one that it's more about the ones you don't know anything about than it is about the ones that everyone knows something about, because they're the ones who would surprise you. So from an England perspective, you look at it and say, I tell you what, I look around my changing room, I look around my squad and I go, there's 11 players in here who can beat anyone. Let's go out there, do what we need to do, win the game, and then afterwards say, yeah, actually they were quite good, rather than, oh no, we can't beat this team because. So I'm always confident England can do well, but they have to go about it the right way. With Gareth in charge, yeah, I'm just confident.
Catch David James on Sony Sports' studio show, Football Extra, for the upcoming UEFA Euro 2020. And watch UEFA Euro 2020 live on Sony Ten 2 and Sony Ten 3 in Hindi, 11th June onwards. Such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your time.
As always, thank you very much, and take care of yourself.
You too.
Thank you.